my journey that I spent this summer. So just a little introduction about myself. I'm from Wolfville. I've basically lived here my entire life. I went to Acadia. I graduated in 2014. I worked here for a year contract, and something that maybe Reverend McFarland will refer to later is how we met is through the Awesome Foundation, which was started last November. So that's a little bit about me. And then the trip that I took this summer was I started an initiative with a few other people called We Are NS, so that stands for We Are Nova Scotia. And the first campaign that we run, what We Are NS is essentially trying to create, there's always room for more positivity in the world, and especially in Nova Scotia. So I said, how can I contribute to that positivity? And I thought that I could use what I've learned at Acadia and through business and marketing to try and promote a more positive narrative for Nova Scotia. So the first campaign that we ran was called Blue Noser by Choice. So you may have seen some people with their nose painted blue, and the term Blue Noser is, for those of you who don't know, a nickname that was given to Nova Scotians hundreds of years ago by the Americans, and there's lots of different tales of what the true meaning is, but the one that I know is true is the blue potatoes, which were actually exported from the Annapolis Valley here. We would load those on ships and send them to the New England states. And when they came ashore, they'd be like, oh, they're the blue nosers from Nova Scotia. And the reason was because the blue potatoes were sometimes shaped like a nose. There's other versions, but that's the one that I've heard. So the Blue Noser by Choice campaign was myself and a few others going around trying to get people to paint their nose blue. And I was stopping people who were here from away on vacation, people who were working, and it was quite interesting to have those conversations and meet those people that I wouldn't have had the chance to meet otherwise. And so we were doing it for about a month, and great response. I mean, 75% of the people that I would ask in whatever the scenario would say, let's do it. So that was great. But the whole point of it was to be inclusive and to be positive, and I was really only going back and forth between Halifax and Wolfville because that was what was convenient for me. So I said, hey, how can I make this like further reaching? How can I be more inclusive? So I turned to my mom, who's right there, and I said, what do you think about me backpacking across Nova Scotia? And she's like, do it. And so that was like super important to have someone that you really respect like encourage you to do something, not because like they want you to, but because they know that you want to, and that that you can do some good. So my mom was super influential in making me it was literally 2 days after I said to her, I got dropped off by my aunt and uncle outside of Halifax, and I started hitchhiking. Never hitchhiked before in my life. Didn't have a clue where I was going. I just knew that I trusted Nova Scotians and the people that I would meet to help me in my journey across the province. So I spent between July 29th and August 18th traveling across Nova Scotia, and I successfully completed the entire loop. Went up to River John was the first community, and I made my way east to Cape Breton, and then from there I loop back down in through Halifax, South Shore, and the Valley. And so after that, I was essentially what I did for 3 weeks was I had conversations and I listened to people, and I was trying to figure out kind of, well, if someone kept asking me this question of like, what does it mean to be Nova Scotian? And like, it's a tough question. So that was something I always kept in the back of my head when I was traveling and the people I was meeting, and trying to extract the core values that we have and within the people and the place that we call home. And so to tie it into the book here, there was a lot of things that kind of I could relate to, and some of the things that I was trying to understand about Nova Scotia that he was trying to understand about his company and what kind of impact his company could have. So to give you a little bit of background quickly on what his company does is there's a term of like ecotourism. So ecotourism, you have to visit one natural preservation site, and the tours are small group tours, but what they do is actually work with local infrastructure and locals who already have hotels or already have excursions set up, and they work with them. And the majority of the money actually goes into the communities, not into the corporations. So it's they're pushing towards sustainable tourism is essentially what he's trying to do. And one of his goals is to limit the gap in inequality of distribution of wealth in the world through this kind of company. And so the five core values that they have are: we love changing people's lives, lead with service, embrace the bizarre, do the right thing, and create happiness and community. And like all of those things, those core values were kind of some of the things I was really trying to better understand about Nova Scotia. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a social enterprise, so they have the triple bottom philosophy, which is profit, people, and planet. So compared to your typical corporation where profit and the shareholder is the number one priority, this is taking into account people and the planet. So they actually have a nonprofit arm of the company called Plantera. And what they do is they fund all the administrative costs for that, but then fundraise to either do immediate reliefs in some of the communities that they work with. They work in over 100 countries in the world and do about 100,000 people a year. And so they fund that, but then what they do is actually a lot of their customers are so attached to the brand that they actually donate part of, they donate, like they ask if you'd like to do a donation to, while you're traveling, $1 a day type thing. And so a lot of people do because they feel a real connection with the brand. And so when I was trying to, the definition of loop tail is there's a loop at the end of a tail. But digging into his book and kind of what I took away from it, this is kind of how I defined what loop tail really means to him, is creating passion and purpose and paying it forward. You also have to nurture an environment that demands excellence and celebrates achievement. And those are all really good takeaways that Nova Scotia can apply as well. And he being in the role of a leadership position in something that I always strive to become better at, there were some takeaways I have as being a leader that he outlined in the book. As a leader, you must be positive, transparent, accept your role, and pay it forward. So there is a little bit of repetition there. But some of the characteristics are creative, collaborative, and communicative. And he really stressed the word transcendent. And he said some of the things to follow there is curiosity, which is something that I, throughout my journey, had to do. I had to talk to new people. I had to trust them. I had to ask them if they wanted to get their nose painted. People opened their home to me. People drove me. All those things. Courage, confidence, consistency, and belief. So your message needs to be clear. And this is a great African proverb that he uses in the book that I've heard some people in Nova Scotia use as well in this time. Faster alone, but further together, which is something that makes sense to me. And I think that the more collaborative and the more transparent we are with one another and the more conversations we have, the less opportunities that you'll miss, and the better, more meaningful relationships you'll create. So one of the things that he really stresses as a company is their culture is the brand. Like so there were companies that were trying to purchase him and his business, and he said there's no value on it because our culture is our brand, so you can't put a price tag on that. And he always challenges mediocrity, which is another thing that I think sometimes in Nova Scotia we struggle with, and to be grateful. And that's definitely one thing. As I traveled across the province, I get to explore parts of the province I hadn't seen before, and meet new people, and I get a better appreciation and understanding of how lucky I am. And the last kind of thing here is this pursuit of happiness. And there's 4 kind of things that he outlines here that allows you to be happy. The ability to grow, being connected to something, being part of something bigger than yourself. So that's like buying into something. So if there's, in Nova Scotia's situation, if we all have to make sacrifices and maybe do something that we personally would like to do a little bit less because we have to do something that is for the greater good, then that's something that we all have to commit to. And the last one's freedom. And he says, freedom lies in being bold. The secret to happiness is freedom. And then the secret to freedom is courage. He's a very interesting person. As you can tell, he does a lot of thinking, and it's something that I can relate to. And it's actually forwarded by Dalai Lama, and which I didn't know means Great Blue Ocean. And just to wrap things up here, two quotes. I'll leave off with 2 quotes here. If you want to be a trailblazer, there are periods where you have to accept that you're going to be unpopular. And one story that I want to share, I spent some time in Cape Breton on my trip, and I was in Member 2, which is a First Nations reserve in Sydney. It's right in the heart of Sydney. And they've really transformed their community and opened up their ways of thinking and have completely changed their community and are one of the largest employers now in the area. And at first, the few community leaders who took this on didn't have anyone's support, really, because it was so different, and everyone wanted to. They were afraid, and but they knew and they believed what they were doing was right, and they didn't let too many people take them off course. It's great to listen, but you want to take it with a grain of salt. So that was just a great example in Nova Scotia. And the last one is, we work hard every day to earn a place in the hearts of our followers and supporters. And that's what his company is all about. It's incredible how much support they get from their customers and how much loyalty and culture has been created there because of that simple, meaningful relationship that they were able to build with the people they deal with and the people that they work with. So, thank you.